As men, especially as doctors, sometimes we hyper-focus on our career, neglecting other facets of our lives. But that is about to change. This is Dads Before Doctors. Some physicians claim their family is their top priority, but their lives tell a very different story. We'll help each other become family men who are doctors rather than doctors who have families. If it's health, wealth and legacy, emotional well-being, parenting, professional goals, or marriage, we're talking about it. Thanks for listening, and make sure to subscribe. This is Dads Before Doctors, and this is your host, Adam Broussard, MD.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Dads Before Doctors. Today, we have a really exciting guest, Dr. Dawn DeLavallade. And she's going to open up our eyes to a little bit of the finer sex and some things that go through their mind. So welcome, Dr. Dawn. We're really excited to have you here and to find out a little bit more today.
All right. Thank you for having me. The finer sex. I like that instead of the weaker sex.
So can you tell us a little bit about like your life growing up and, how, you talk a lot about finances and women's earnings. How did you grow up and what was your experience with that?
Well, I grew up in a traditional home until second grade. So when I think about my strongest memories of my childhood, it was in a two-parent home. Dad was the traditional breadwinner. Mom was the traditional stay-at-home mom. So I definitely saw that side of marriage, which I can absolutely appreciate. And I do see that as an ideal for some. It wasn't what I felt like I was necessarily cut out for, to be the homemaker. But I saw it and I appreciate it. And my mom was a phenomenal mom. My dad was a good dad, but he definitely was that working, that kind of quintessential working dad. But they split when I was in second grade. So even though I was quite young, I still quite fondly remember that hierarchy of the man as the provider. And when they split, my dad very much was always in my life. So I'm very thankful for that. But my mom, of course, she had gone back to school. She had gone back to school prior to them quitting because they got married at 18 and 19. So right out of college, they started kids. Shortly after that, my dad went straight into the workforce. So when my mom decided she wanted that college education at the University of Baltimore, because that's where I grew up, I don't know if it started adding a little bit of friction, but, and if I hear her to tell it, she will say, he probably didn't appreciate me getting that education. He maybe didn't appreciate me opening up those opportunities. So I don't know if it contributed to their breakup, but I know it was happening at the same time. And so once they went their separate ways, she went back for her master's degree. She was able to survive and sustain as a single mom at that point. But again, my dad was always around. So I saw both sides of the coin and I saw them both remarry. I saw them both are still with that second mate. So there is life after divorce. There is, we can make better choices after being in the first marital situation at times because we know what we did wrong. We know more about who we are, how we show up as a spouse. So they both made a second choice, and that choice has been the lasting choice for them. So again, I've seen it from one end of the spectrum to the other. And as far as money, it was never something that was talked about to say who earned what. It was just assumed that, dad was the provider. Don't talk about money or figures or anything like that. So for me, to have a platform where I talk about women as higher earners, when I initially started this journey, it was very unorthodox. It was very, very, seemed like I was a rebel rouser. I was a trouble starter, when really I'm just trying to remove some of the taboo. I'm trying to get us to a place where it feels like a new normal, because that's what it is. And that starts with transparent, honest conversation. So.
So what started you off on this mission? What was your why to become that rabble rouser, to
Yeah.
go against the grain? What caused you to start this?
Well, I am a physician and I married a teacher. So you can imagine when we met, I was a last year of medical school, and he was teaching sixth grade. And so when I got out, I went into residency radiology. And then and of course, in medical school, he was earning a little bit more. He was the breadwinner as a teacher. And so then residency comes and you get that little bit of boost in your salary, and it goes a little up each year. And then by the time I finished my residency, of course, my salary skyrocketed compared to his. And we used to always joke about, oh, he'll be Mr. Mom, and kind of laugh about it. And when the time came where, there was that huge shift in income hierarchy, he was not interested in being any Mr. Mom. And it was never something that I would ask him to do if he didn't want to do it. But for me, since I had never seen a woman as a high earner in my formative years, it was very foreign to me. So because it felt so upside down, inside out, and backwards as far as a marital construct, I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to process it. I felt like, what is this? It was a little bit of I call it grief, because I felt like I was grieving the loss of that fantasy that a man was going to be able to take care of me, the knight in shining armor. Oh, I can work if I want to work. I can eat bonbons all day if I want to. But of course, as a doctor, that's not our reality for the most part. So I had to go through that grieving process to say, wow, I didn't sign up for this, but this is my life. And because I struggled, I didn't have a support system. I didn't have anyone to talk to. I didn't have any role models. And it was hard for me. And it was just for me saying, I'm going to heal myself by a catharsis. And so that was my first book, was writing about it, getting it out there in the world, raising my hand, admitting, yes, I'm a female breadwinner. This is our situation. And it just started from there. So it was really more of a healing process for myself to find the support that I needed by opening up and being transparent with the world.
That seems to be a really common thread among, physician entrepreneurs and just entrepreneurs as a whole, is that, you find something that just is an outlet for yourself, and, whether that you just end up sharing with the world, and then you realize that you're not alone, and there's other people going through the same things, and want to are drawn to you because of that, because they now have a community that can support them for they thought that it was just them, and now you realize that other people are feeling the same way.
Absolutely.
And then you're able to provide that when support. So what, some of you kind of mentioned some of the things going through your mind, but through your time with helping other women who are the primary breadwinners, what do we as guys need to know that is kind of going through your head? And it's a mystery to all of us guys. We don't know, and sometimes it feels like women expect us to read their minds sometimes. So let us in on some secrets.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for asking. So I guess one of the most important things that we want is just to be accepted. We just want to be accepted for who we are, because the homemaker, the housewife, that is great for some women, but it's not for everyone. And we have a limited amount of time on this planet, some shorter than others. COVID taught us that a million times over. So if she is given, and for me, I call this my divine assignment, being a voice for the modern relationship that has a woman as a higher earner. I feel like that task was given to me on my spirit to assist, support love in a modern world. So you can imagine how many other women have been given some sort of an assignment by a higher being. I call it God. You can call it what you want. Maybe she's meant to, again, heal through medicine, right? She's a surgeon, she's this, she's that. Maybe she's meant to be in politics, right? Bring the people together, fight for laws. Maybe she's meant to protect society in law enforcement. Whatever assignment she's been given, just because she has two X chromosomes, I don't think our men should want to make us choose between what we want to do with our life and how we want to impact this world and make it better than how we found it, how we received it. I don't think we should have to choose between that and being the quote unquote good wife, the good mother. We should be allowed or given permission to do both, whatever that means for her. So I guess the biggest thing is we want to be accepted for who we are in this world. So that is key, because a lot of women in these relationships, they feel guilty. They feel guilty about working outside the home. They feel guilty about not upholding some of the tradition of the archetypal, wife and mother and all of that. But yet again, you've got one life, she deserves that opportunity. So just give her reassurance. We need a little bit of a cheerleader sometimes. And we know our men do too. We understand our men do. But sometimes she may have to take on a little bit of a more gruff or masculine persona just to survive out there. But at the end of the day, a lot of us are unsure. We are not certain that we're making the right choice. So sometimes we need that reassurance from our husband to say, I see what you're doing for the family. I see that you're working hard. I see that you're pulled between these two worlds. I appreciate you, everything that you're doing. So again, it's really about acceptance and giving us a little reassurance at times that it's okay.
So I had seen some research that female marriages with female breadwinners have a higher rate of divorce than male breadwinners. What is kind of the main causes of that?
Yeah. Well, what we just discussed is that maybe the husband doesn't feel like, he says, I didn't sign up for this. I wanted the quintessential housewife. I wanted the homemaker. I wanted the hot meal whenever I go home. I don't want to hear that you have a appendectomy at 7 p.m. and you're not going to be home until 10 p.m. If she's a surgeon, he doesn't want to hear that. He wants a hot meal when he gets home. He's like, wait, what happened? So that's definitely one, is us continuing to try to receive or transition beyond that traditional hierarchy of what it means to be husband and wife and the gender expectations of that. We are transitioning into something different, and the struggle with him being able to wrap his mind around, okay, she's going to show up a little bit differently than how my mom and my grandmom did, but I love her anyway. Every guy's not on board for that transition. So that would be number one, is that he can't accept this new role that she's in, and he can't understand that that is a part of who she is. And it really does become a part of who we are sometimes, our profession and how we're giving back to the world. She can't just turn it off. She can't just walk away from it. So sometimes the marriage dissolves because he wants her to walk away from it. And the other would definitely be for her, she needs to see a certain amount of leadership. She needs to see a certain, and it may sound like a little bit of a dichotomy, right? Like she goes out, she's a boss lady all day, every day, 9 to 5. She can call the shots and order people around, and she's competent. But at times, a lot of us, and sometimes it's generational. So I'm a 70s baby. So I'm 40s, 50s and up. The millennials feel a little bit different, but for my generation, we still want our husbands to be leaders. We don't care how much we make. We don't care if we call the shots all day. We still prefer our husband to have some leadership qualities. And so I think some men, they perceive this woman who's doing lots and dominating during the day, and they don't know where they necessarily fit in when she gets home. And some of them walk away from the responsibility of still being a provider. Even if you don't provide the income, you're still a provider for that home. You provide direction for the home. Even if you didn't make the money, hey, are you able to help it grow? Do you know how to build wealth for the family, regardless of who earns what? Are you a spiritual leader for the family, if that's the kind of leadership she responds to? Do you know how to fix anything around the home? Because, sometimes as ladies, we still want our guys to be able to tweak or fix or hammer at a little something. It's just something masculine about it. So it's just the little ways that is showing up to still be a leader. She wants to see that. And if we don't see it, sometimes we can get frustrated. We can get discouraged. We can feel like, oh God, everything's falling on me. I can't count on him for anything. He drops the ball on everything. I have to do it all. So that would be another reason that these fall apart, is because she's just like, you're not the right leader for me. You're not providing the direction that I need in our family. And I'm very capable of doing this on my own. She does it every day in her career. She's just like, if you're not going to show up in that way, I may as well do it on my own. And that's how some women may feel. So that's why the conversations and the transparency and the vulnerability within that couple, the communication becomes so important, because we don't always have the words to tell our men that they're not leading in the way that's resonating with us. We don't know how to say that to him without damaging his ego. So it goes unsaid for years and years and years. And then she's just like, oh, I'm done with this. So those are two common reasons.
How do we establish that communication so that it doesn't go for years?
Yeah, I think definitely if you are a new couple, start early, start often. Meaning, I always say, let's say you're dating. I always say date 4 is like the magic number. Because if you're on date 4, I think it's pretty clear that you guys are, digging each other. There's some mutual attraction. Maybe you start thinking about, oh, is this person good for me for the future? And it's crucial to have the conversations. Let's say she's an attorney and he's maybe in, I don't know, IT or something. He's software developer, what have you. And I think it's key to start having the conversations on date 4 to say, what did you see growing up as far as gender roles? Or have you ever seen a relationship with a woman as a higher earner? What do you think about it? And based on how he grew up, some of them automatically know, oh, that'll never work. Oh, my dad told me never, ever be with a woman that earns more. You lose your this, or you lose your say so, and all these things. And some of them, they already have a concept of, I would never be able to handle that. Whereas others say, oh, I'd be okay with it. My mom was a single mom. I've seen this, and I understand that exists and it can work. So I think you need to figure out where he is, and he needs to figure out where she is, that this may be their reality. So date number 4 to me is a good date, because it's early enough where if he can't handle that hierarchy, that shift and that flip and hierarchy of income, you got to get out. You guys got to already go your separate ways, because you're going to be fighting a little bit of an uphill battle, because it's a little bit of a core value of whether he can accept it or not. So definitely, if you're a new couple, I would say early and often. If you're an existing couple, it is going to take courage to do this, because vulnerability can be very scary, especially if you haven't had that connection with your mate in that way, to show the soft side of you as a man. But I think you just have to create that relaxing environment, whether it's a glass of wine or soft music, you're in a good mood, the kids are somewhere else, and you can choose something that may have happened, a trigger. Like, for instance, let's say you go to purchase a home, and because her salary is so much more than his, maybe the lender just completely focuses on her for the whole interview, turns his chair toward her, or something that feels very diminishing to him. Talk about it that day. She can say, could I have done anything different in that situation? How should we handle this in the future? So it becomes, address things as they come up. And again, if something happened in the past that you guys never did discuss that made him feel diminished as a man because she was a higher earner, that's a good place to start. To say, let's talk about what happened there. Let's talk about how I felt, how you felt, how we can handle this in the future. So I would say as many of those conversations as you can have as possible is really just, you just got to be brave and start.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice for either way when there's a big discrepancy. I mean, my wife stays home with our 2 sons, and I don't think she, feels as comfortable even discussing certain financial stuff. She's like, I mean, you made it, or, whatever. Like, I think that's good advice for either way. That's a great point, because a lot of some men will walk away from the finances
because they feel like if I didn't earn it, I don't have the right to say where it goes and what it does. And that is absolutely not what we want most of the time. We want our men to be involved in the finances. And again, learn some wealth building knowledge and strategy, make it grow to higher heights than what I could have done on my own. So
it's a team sport.
Yeah.
So is there any, difference between the amount of gap? Like, say it's a 2-physician household and the wife is a radiologist and the husband's a pediatrician or something, or I mean, 2 still high income, but versus, radiologist and teacher. Is there a difference in those types of relationships?
Well, from my experience in talking with couples over the years, I do think it gets more dramatic, as there's a bigger discrepancy. But again, it's all about what's up here, because our society has groomed men to sometimes, their worth is tied to their wealth. Their worth is tied to their paycheck. Their worth is tied to their career, their title. And so, if in his mind, even if it's a small discrepancy, but in his mind, if he feels unworthy because of that little discrepancy, then that's his reality, So it all depends on where he is psychologically and how he's going to respond to that discrepancy, even if it's a small amount. So I think it depends on the couple.
Okay. So for those of us that are not in this situation, but we have female colleagues that may be the breadwinner in their household, or just other female physicians that are having to take some of that, I guess, more masculine persona, the female surgeon or whatever. Like, how do we as male physicians support those female physicians, inside the hospital and out?
Mm-hmm. That's a really great question. Let's see, how do I say this? I am definitely a believer that the feminine energy, the masculine energy, they each have a place. And so, yes, we have had to take on some of the more masculine characteristics in order to survive in a quote unquote man's world. So even if it's a little bit of giving her permission to just be a woman, to have that feminine energy on the job, because let's look at how it may affect your bedside manner, right? Who's more nurturing than a mom? Like, a mom is the most nurturing creature ever created on the planet. So just let her know that it's okay. It's okay. You can show up as your feminine self, to a certain degree, of course. You can't kind of upend just the culture of the office, but just let her know it's okay to bring some of that more feminine energy into the office, whatever that may be, because we are under the impression that it's not acceptable. We're under the impression that we have to mimic the man every step of the way. So I think as a society, we are getting a little bit better. I think we're recognizing that some women as leaders bring different set of skills to the table than male leaders, and we both can be appreciated. So any way that you may be able to express that to her, that it's okay to show up with some feminine energy sometimes, because we may need it. Our office may need it. Our patients may need that. So yeah, that's what you can do.
So how do we help society as a whole to progress this, and normalize?
Yeah, definitely. The more we talk about it, the better, and we have to begin to redefine what it means to be a man, because if we continue to use income, paycheck, salary as the yardstick by which we measure manhood, it's going to be very hard to transition into wherever we're going with women earning more. Women make up more of the college campuses, right? We take up more than 50% of the seats on college campuses across the nation. We take up more than 50% of graduate school, professional schools. So this is happening. So we have to start celebrating different facets of what it means to be a man. and just lessen some of the importance that we place strictly on income. How is he showing up as a dad? Like that's huge for us. That is huge for women who identify as higher earners. How are you showing up to help me take care of the kids? How are you showing up to just fit in around the home? Whatever needs to be done, if we can start removing some of the gender connotation that goes with, oh, I don't do dishes because I'm a man. Oh, I don't cook because I'm a man. If we can lessen some of that, no, this is teamwork. Like everybody pitch in and do your part. So little things like that, where we can start celebrating the other aspects of what it means to be a man. I think that will help us as a society recognize that you guys bring a lot to the table. We love you and we want you to understand that you're so much more than just dollars and cents. You enhance our lives in so many ways. And as a society, I think we got to start celebrating all of that, of what it means to be a man.
And that's part of the goal of this podcast and this community, is to detach ourselves a little bit from that identity as a physician and focus more on, our relationship with our kids, relationships with our wives, relationship with ourselves, how we show up in all of those areas, and even our health, our mental health, our physical health, how we're not defined by just our profession. So what is something that people don't ask you about that you wish they would?
Oh, wow. I've never been asked that before. Let's see. I think nowadays, for some reason, I wish people would ask why. Okay, so recently there was a social media post that was going around for a podcast where a man kind of said, oh, I have a friend. She makes lots of money. She has a good job. And she says, all I need is a man. And so he says to her, well, if you have all those things, who's going to want you? Was his response. Who's going to want you? You've already achieved all of that. And so I wish they would ask more about our feelings, as women breadwinners, because I think we get the urban myth that we have it all together. We're large and in charge. We're the boss lady. We're calling all the shots. But we do have feelings, And again, we're not always sure that we're doing the right thing. We're not always sure that we're making the right moves by being absent, but we're just following our passion and what we feel like we're put here to do. So I think I wish people would ask us more about our feelings and the softer side of who we are, because those things are really hurtful when we hear men say that. Because again, for a man to want to say that when I win, it's somehow seen as a detriment. It just doesn't click. It doesn't make sense logically. Like, it's a win. So wait, so because I'm a woman, that mean and I win in this way, that means it's a bad thing? Like, I don't understand that. So I wish they would ask us again more of, what are our feelings on the inside about this? What makes us sad? What makes us not be able to sleep at night as a woman breadwinner, So I would go that route to say, what are the emotions behind all of this? And just know that it is very hurtful when men say that. It really is.
Well, Dr. Dawn, I really appreciate and grateful for having this conversation. Hopefully this has opened up some guys' eyes like it has mine, and we can be better spouses, better partners, and just change the dialogue in general in our community. Where can the listeners find more about you, connect with you, and how can we learn more about your mission?
Well, I am She Makes More on Facebook. I'm She Makes More on Instagram. I just launched my own podcast the other day.
Awesome.
And it's called She Makes More. So my episode 1, hopefully, it's on Buzzsprout right now, but hopefully it will be out in the world soon on all the platforms and also YouTube. And my website is, what else? SheMakesMore.com.
Wonderful. Well, hopefully everyone will connect with you. And like I said, we can bring this message to more. Very important.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation.
Thanks.
You've been listening to the Dads Before Doctors podcast. Family men who are doctors rather than doctors who have families. In an evolving and ever fast-paced world, we cannot lose sight of our real priorities. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had fun. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And tell a friend about the show. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at dadsbeforedoctors.com. Questions, comments, suggestions? Email adam@dadsbeforedoctors.com. And find us on Facebook and Instagram at Dads Before Doctors. Remember, the host of this show is not your doctor, your coach, or your financial advisor. This show is strictly for entertainment. Till next time, this is Dads Before Doctors, signing off.